So, there may be a few people who clicked on this video thinking I was going to talk about a specific race, ethnicity, or possibly a social or economic class. Unfortunately, it is a lot scarier than even that. The parasitic class dissects all walks of life, all possible classifications. It is a behavior that is most influenced by the randomness of a person's temperament at birth. Some may claim that temperament is purely a result of genetic traits, but anyone who is socially active will recognize the multitude of temperaments seen even in individuals of very similar heredity. To fully understand the parasitic class, we have to go back in our history and realize that the individual is nothing but a tool of our species' genetic material to procreate and to keep the species alive. Not the individual, the species. This may be a difficult idea for religious types to get their head around, but then again, I never understood why a higher power would build a world that doesn't work. Humans often, particularly in our past, have had to survive under horrendous conditions. The fact that humanity, thanks to our genes, perseveres at all is a miracle in of itself. In fact, temperament and the seeming personality randomness is so evolutionary successful that most animals that can biologically afford to have a temperament do so. Why have temperament in the first place? It would seem a bit of a waste, as many temperaments are seemingly counterproductive in many situations, and a few traits are universally despised in most situations. And that is the key, in most situations. A variation in temperament serves a very specific genetic purpose. It is a species-wide safety net, if you will, or an exploit in very specific circumstances that will allow these individuals to survive and even thrive and reproduce in circumstances where most would fail and possibly even die. These individuals with more unorthodox temperaments will be born in every generation to ensure all bases are covered in case of a species-wide environmental change. It must be remembered that temperament, like all mental functions, is quite plastic. Cultures and external stimulus can help mold an individual, but the random starting tendencies will always restrict how far and in what direction personality can be developed from external influence. It is also important to remember that temperament influences how you perceive the world around you and how you interpret the information you receive. Two individuals with a similar upbringing but different temperaments can interpret the same situation quite differently and so act completely differently. This is the reason why raising two children the same way can lead to quite different results. The parenting was the same, just the interpretation was different. So, personality and attitude are influenced by family and culture, but the roll of the dice done at our birth will always ensure that there will always be those amongst us who display more unusual personalities. And amongst these, from every race, social stratum, and education level, comes the parasitic class. Those with little or no empathy, those who are lazy, selfish, arrogant, and willing to manipulate and take advantage of others, or a combination thereof. This can come from the most noble of families, from the most hard-working of cultures. Some will fall to crime or become outcasts, but enough will manipulate the system, make use of the hard work of others, in addition to possibly their own hard work, and use the system and interpretation of others to gain disproportionate influence, gain power, possibly to the detriment of all others around them. This is the parasitic class. The point of this video is to make people aware that the majority of people around you do not think like you. Presented with the same scenario, many within your own close-knit community or even family would take completely different actions, particularly if it has a moral aspect. Most temperaments and the personalities they produce are not inherently bad, or at least not under all circumstances. It is, however, important to note that many may be counterproductive for a modern peaceful society, or indeed even destructive if not properly managed. This is not necessarily the fault of the individual themselves. We need to be aware of the risks and consequences these varying temperaments and personalities pose, if we are to properly guide these individuals into fulfilling and productive roles.